Welcome to Teller YouTube channel. The beginning of our struggle. The night was quiet, except for the distant hum of crickets and the occasional barking of a restless dog. My children, you all sat at my feet with curious eyes, waiting for me to tell you the story you have asked for many times. I looked into your faces, innocent, eager, full of wonder, and I knew this was the moment. The truth of your mother and I must be told, so you will understand that the life you enjoy today was not handed to us on a golden plate. I cleared my throat and began. Children, life was not always like this. What you see around you now, the walls of this house, the food on our table, the clothes you wear, these things came through pain, sweat, and tears. There was a time when your mother and I had nothing, absolutely nothing. The world looked at us and said we would never make it, but love and faith kept us alive. I leaned back, remembering. The images came rushing in, as clear as yesterday. When I first met your mother, said softly, I was a young man with more dreams than coins in my pocket. I had left the village to try my luck in the city. The air there was heavy with smoke, the streets full of noise and confusion. I rented a single small room in a crumbling building, a room so tiny that when I lay down, my feet nearly touched the wall. The landlord demanded rent. I could hardly pay, and rats were my first roommates. Yet I was determined. I told myself that one day, things would change. The children shifted, listening intently. I smiled faintly before continuing. Your mother was different from any girl I had ever known. I met her at the market where she sold vegetables. The first day I saw her, she was carrying a basket larger than herself, balancing it gracefully on her head while calling out to customers. She had no fancy clothes, no jewelry, but there was a light in her eyes, a strength I couldn't ignore. She was poor, just like me, but rich in courage. I paused, my voice thickening with emotion. Do you know, children, that when I finally gathered the courage to speak to her, I had only 5 naira in my pocket? 5 naira, enough for a single loaf of bread, nothing more. But she did not look at what I had. She looked at who I was. That was the beginning of everything. I could see the amazement on your faces, but the story had only just begun. After some months, we got married. Not with the big ceremonies you see today. Not with cars and plenty of rice. No, our wedding was small, almost hidden. I borrowed a shirt from a friend. Your mother borrowed a wrapper from her auntie, and the pastor in a small church blessed us. We had no rings, no photographs, nothing but a prayer and the hope that God was listening. I sighed deeply, remembering the early days.
Children, marriage is not about the wedding day. It is about the days after. That is where the true story begins. We moved into that tiny room I told you about. The ceiling leaked whenever it rained, the floor was rough, and we had only one mat to sleep on. We shared that mat, and sometimes, when hunger became too strong, we shared one loaf of bread between us for the whole day. There were days your mother would say she had eaten, but later I discovered she gave her portion to me because she didn't want me to faint from hunger. That woman carried suffering like a crown, silently and with dignity. The children gasped softly, their eyes wide. I nodded slowly. Yes, children. There was a night I will never forget. Rain poured heavily, and the roof of our room began to leak. The mat was soaked, the floor became muddy, and we had no other shelter. Your mother wrapped herself in a thin cloth and held me close, saying, Don't worry, one day this will be a story we will tell our children. She spoke those words while shivering, her teeth chattering, but her spirit was unbroken. That night, I wept like a child. I asked God why life was so cruel. But your mother, she comforted me. She was my strength when I was weak. I looked at each of you, my children, and let the silence sink in. You see, I continued, we suffered together. We went to bed hungry many nights. Sometimes I walked from one end of the city to another looking for work and returned with nothing but blisters on my feet. Your mother would massage my legs with her tired hands, whispering, Tomorrow will be better. But tomorrow was not always better. Some days were worse. Some days I thought we would not survive. My voice dropped low. There was even a time I thought of leaving the city, returning to the village, and giving up. But then I would look at your mother's face, full of faith, and I could not give up. She believed in me more than I believed in myself. And for that, I kept pushing. The room grew quiet, only the sound of your breathing filling the air. Children, I said at last, that was the beginning. That was how we started, not with wealth, not with comfort, but with pain, love, and faith. Remember this. Never despise small beginnings. The seed of greatness often grows in the soil of suffering. I paused, knowing that this was only the first chapter. Stay around for chapter 2.